Was Boromir really a traitor, or was he poisoned by Sauron? Why did Frodo have to leave Middle-earth? Was Gandalf a lazy, wussy leader or a genius? And was he trying to tell the Fellowship to use the Eagles here?
Blather, you fools!
Let's dive into the biggest questions and fan theories, and beware, lots of them are sharp.
Blade that cut the ring. Sauron's hand.
Like this one. Have you ever wondered why Boromir really betrayed Frodo? Why was he so jealous about the ring? Now here's a mind-blowing theory from the internet, guys. What if Boromir wasn't a traitor? What if he never actually betrayed Frodo, but was poisoned by Sauron's blood? Here's the thing. In Rivendell, Boromir accidentally cut himself with the broken sword that had previously chopped off Sauron's finger. It looks like the elves preserved the sword exactly as it was, so there could be a chance that Sauron's blood was still on it, right? Which means that Boromir could have been infected by it.
You will take the ring to Sauron! You will betray us!
Unfortunately, we can't know for sure, as so much time has passed since Sauron's blood got on that sword, and nothing was ever said about his blood being infected. But the interesting thing is that Boromir's father, Denethor, was also prone to madness, and that might be due to poisoning too. There's a pretty smart theory on Reddit that says Denethor lost his mind due to lead poisoning. Remember him eating tomatoes? Yep, so what, you may ask? Well, it turns out that in the middle of the last millennium, Europeans were afraid of tomatoes as so many kings and rich people got sick and even died after eating them. The problem wasn't actually the tomatoes, but the pewter dishes they ate the tomatoes out of. The acidity from the tomato would leach lead from the dish, making the food toxic. Now you can see in The Return of the King, Denethor was eating from presumably pewter plates and drinking from a pewter cup, which might mean that's what really shut down Denethor's mental health. So maybe he and Boromir were not weak and crazy, but poisoned instead? That definitely gives them at least some sort of redemption.
What have I done? Please, Frodo.
But let's move on to much bigger questions. For example, why did Frodo leave Middle-earth and go to the Undying Lands? Like, couldn't he remain in the Shire with his mates, find a wife, have kids, do some Hobbit stuff, you know? Hadn't he had enough extraordinary adventure? It turns out that he had indeed. First of all, he carried the ring. And being a bearer leaves a deep scar that no one ever heals from. Exactly. Just like Bilbo or Gollum. Second of all, Frodo had a bunch of physical scars too, from being stabbed with a Morgul blade to getting hit by a troll and bitten by a giant spider. Seriously, it's a miracle Frodo made it back to the Shire alive. Luckily, the elves invited him to join them in a place where he could heal and finally find rest. And it seemed like the only option for Frodo. Now, if you guys were upset that Frodo and Sam were separated forever, here's some good news for you. Later in Tolkien's story, Sam left Middle-earth too. After his wife died, the brave gardener went to the Undying Lands to reunite with Frodo. But why did the elves invite Sam? Well, because he was a ring bearer too. It was only for a short period of time, but still.
I thought I'd lost you, so I took it. Only for safekeeping.
Now, most of the Lord of the Rings questions that people argue about even today are about Gandalf. Like, why did the biggest and wisest wizard in Middle-earth leave his mates alone right when they needed him most?
Where are you going?
There's some things that I must see to.
What thing?
Gandalf, where are you going?
Seek the company of the only one around here who's got any sense.
But who's that?
Myself, Mr. Beckett.
And what was the deal with him dying in Moria but then returning? Was that just a lazy twist to bring a character back? Even the great George Martin considers that to be Tolkien's biggest mistake.
You know, bringing him back is surprising, but in some ways it undercut the power of that moment.
Yeah, George Martin just loves it when characters stay dead. But we do agree that Gandalf's return was kinda far-fetched. Like, the only logical explanation is if Gandalf and Balrog were secretly friends the entire time. That's a joke. But anyways, we don't want to nitpick. A much bigger question is why didn't Gandalf simply use those damn eagles to get to Mount Doom? Instead of just flying straight there, Gandalf forced everyone to wander around for months.
Down the mountain! Gandalf! We must turn back!
We know, the eagle question has been raised millions of times everywhere. But the thing is, the answer is still not clear, and the eagles still worry fans. Vulcan Deathgrip, a Reddit user, did an amazing investigation to try to answer this question. In brief, Gandalf was planning to use eagles to fly the ring to Mount Doom, but first he wanted to secretly get to the eagle's place. The wizard didn't share his plan with the Fellowship because he wasn't sure he could trust everyone. Then Gandalf falls in Moria, and his last words were a desperate attempt to tell the Fellowship about the eagles.
Fly, you fools!
Isn't that a brilliant theory? We think it is. It's definitely a very fun one. But is it real or just a coincidence? You can draw your own conclusion, but we think it's unlikely to be true, especially as the word fly can also simply mean flee. And if we believe Gandalf was trying to tell the Fellowship about his plan, they still wouldn't be able to find the eagles on their own. What makes much more sense to us is the Nazgul and their dragons. Cause, you know, Sauron had his own air forces too. Like, what chance did the eagles have against the Nazgul on dragons? Not great odds, right? Sauron would have seen the eagles flying way ahead of time. So having a small walking group was probably the best way to get to Mordor. And this is actually what happened. More than that, it was Gandalf who chose Frodo and Sam to carry the ring, and they did their job perfectly. So don't be too hard on the old wizard. He made the best bet in the history of Middle-earth. The great thing about Gandalf is how he knew Sam would be the perfect partner for Frodo. Have you ever thought about that? Sam just accidentally overheard Gandalf and Frodo's conversation, and that's how he got a part in the story?
Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee! Have you been eavesdropping?
I haven't dropped no eaves, sir, honest.
That doesn't seem very convincing. The thing is, Gandalf saw something very specific in Sam. Something that reminded the wizard of himself. Those of you who have read the Silmarillion know, Gandalf used to live in a place called the Gardens of Lorien, and he was doing pretty good there. But he was asked to move to Middle-earth along with other wizards and fight against Sauron. Now, the thing about Gandalf is that he never wanted that. He felt weak and unsure of himself, and he was also afraid of Sauron. But surprisingly, Gandalf was chosen for the role exactly because of his insecurity, to help him overcome his fear. Years later, Gandalf saw how uncertain Sam was and how little he thought about himself. Maybe that's what the wise wizard loved about the gardener. Sam reminded Gandalf of his younger self, and he felt empathy for him. What do you think, guys? Which of these theories do you believe are true? Let us know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching this video. Subscribe to our channel, and remember to always be awesome.